dealing with the question, can an evangelical Christian vote for a Mormon to be president? I want to now move to Romney and his dealing with the First Amendment. As Massachusetts governor from 2002 to 2006, Romney proposed legislation that would have exempted religious organizations from having to provide adoption services to same-sex couples. Romney made this proposal after Catholic Charities announced it was ending its adoption services in Massachusetts rather than be forced to place children with homosexual parents, which would run counter to the church's teaching. Opposed by leaders in both houses of the Massachusetts legislature, the bill never became law. Of course, it would not, because Massachusetts is liberal, and thus Romney could not implement his position. In 2005, Romney abandoned plans to exempt Catholic-run hospitals from a state law that requires all hospitals to make morning-after pills available to each female rape victim. Announcing his decision, he said, and I quote, "I think, in my personal view, it is the right thing for hospitals to provide information and access to emergency contraception to anyone who is a victim of rape," unquote. Romney showed that his Mormonistic religious views did not dictate his decision as governor when he played a role in the historic repeal of that part of Massachusetts blue laws. Despite his church's teachings prohibiting the consumption of alcohol or working on the Sabbath, Romney signed legislation in 2003 permitting liquor sales on Sundays. Romney did not support a bill to create 35-foot protest-free buffer zones around abortion clinics in his state concerning the protesting of abortions. On December 6, 2007, Romney delivered his much-anticipated speech, Faith in America. Clearly, Romney was seeking to simultaneously diffuse concerns about the effect of his Mormon faith, which it would have on his presidency, and yet he advocated for religion to play a strong role in public life. Romney conveyed a message of religious pluralism, praising the virtues of Roman Catholicism, Lutherans, evangelical, Pentecostals, Jews, and Muslims. However, Romney did not mention atheists or agnostics, and condemned those who advocated the religion of secularism. Romney also opposed any ideas of removing the acknowledgement of God from the public square. He said, "We are a nation under God, and in God we do indeed trust," unquote. Romney stated emphatically that, quote, "We should acknowledge the Creator as did the founders, in ceremony and in word. We should remain on our currency, in our pledge, in the teaching of our history, and during the holiday season. Nativity scenes and moriahs should be welcome in our public places," unquote. Romney also made a promise that the leaders of his church would not dictate any decisions he might make if elected. Romney also promised that if he ever encountered a situation in which his office forced him to choose between his conscience and the national interest, he would resign from the White House. Candidate Romney has advocated funding of faith-based initiatives as long as they are performing non-faith roles. In the 2012 campaign, Romney has continued to speak in favor of religious freedom. After the Supreme Court unanimously ruled against a Michigan teacher's challenge to her firing from a Lutheran church-sponsored school in Hosanna Tabor Evangelical Lutheran Church and School versus EEOC, Romney voiced his support of the decision to the audience at the Faith and Freedom Coalition event in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, saying, quote, "We are very fortunate to have people who are willing to stand up for religious tolerance and religious liberty and the First Amendment of this Constitution in this country," unquote. Romney has expressed concerns about the Obama administration's treatment of religious liberty. criticizing the Department of Health and Human Services' decision to require schools and hospitals, including those that are run by the Catholic Church and other faith-based groups, to cover contraceptions under their employee insurance plans. Romney said in February 6 at a rally in Colorado, and I quote, "Think what that does to a people in faith that do not share those views. This is a violation of conscience. We must have a president who is willing to protect America's First Amendment rights, a right to worship God according to the dictates of our own conscience," unquote. In February, Romney went further to attack the current administration's overall stance on religious liberty, accusing the president of his administration of promoting secular agendas. Romney stated, quote, "Unfortunately, possibly because of the people the president hangs around with and their agenda, their secular agenda, they have thus instituted and fought against religion." Romney told the crowd that freedom of religion is important to him because he is, quote, "someone who has understood very personally the significance of religious tolerance," unquote. Well, of course he has. He's a member of the Mormon Church. Mormonism is America's persecuted religion. Now, I've clearly denoted that Mormonism, according to historic evangelical Christianity, is not Christian. We've covered this material. We'll not cover it again. But my point is this. Here is a man who is seeking to implement just conservative standards that are just and right in many areas without allowing the dictates of his religion, apart from the fact of personal leaders implementing Mormon teachings and practices, that he would do it from the perspective of course his religion is going to force him to emphasize family, emphasize the First Amendment right to freedom of religion, freedom from federal and state invasion. The Second Amendment, the right to carry arms, to protect ourselves, our families, our life, our liberties, our properties. This is a man who is laying out these principles, and many of these principles are common to his religion, but he's not instituting things that are not common also to many of the other religions, but in particular to the Christian religion as well. Religiously, if you want to set forth the concept of a taxonomy, I don't agree with his theological thinking. But socially, his concepts that deal with America and its culture, I am in most areas in agreement, not in every area. Because yes, I still recognize he's a statist. He still interprets the Constitution through the 14th Amendment. I have a problem with the 14th Amendment and every amendment thereafter. Because once the 14th comes in, you have a national collectivism that is established. And we'll deal with this in a future episode where we're going to be dealing with American history and constitutionalism. But what is important now for us to see is he is stating policies, fulfilling and changing his roles in the way that he looks at things by recognizing the interference that government is dealing with in First Amendment areas that deal with the church and the rights of individuals and their religious freedoms. That is a constitutionally understood provision. And again, I find myself in agreement with Mitt Romney on this issue.